Lesson 2. Verbs and Questions. பாடம் 2. வினைச்சொற்களும் கேள்விகளும். Chapter 3. Questions. பகுதி 3. கேள்விகள். Now, before we come into the actual questions, let's just look at an interesting factor of Tamil and the language. One very important point is that there is a distinction between something that is close to you and in a time space manner, or something that is comparatively away from you in a time space manner. This is defined by the sound E and the sound A. The sound E is something that is close to you, and the sound A is something that is further from you. Now that sounds very arbitrary, so I'll just give you an example. For instance, when I want to say here, it is inga. But if I want to say there, it is anga. This is a typical example of the E coming to play and the A coming to play, which is the E is something that is close to you, so inga is something that's geographically closer, and anga is geographically further. Another example would be idu, this thing. It's not just it, but it is this thing, which is somehow closer to you. And then there is other, which is that thing or that it, right? Now let me warn you that when other is used without idu, other is technically known as just it. There is no comparison. For other to become that thing, there would have to be a comparative idu. Only if you use either somewhere does other become that thing which is further away from me. Otherwise, other is just nominally it. Just it acts as an it. So if you find an other that does not have a comparative either in the same sentence or the next sentence or in the context, then other is naturally an it. Now, the difference between this, that, and either other is that this, that has two meanings. This can be used for something, as in this thing or that thing, or this person or that person, or this book or that book. Or it can also be used alternatively as this thing. This is not good. This thing is not good. Or that is not good. Or that thing is not good. In Tamil, idu would be this thing specifically. You would necessarily not be able to use, you can't say idu nool. Book is nool. So idu nool. You can't say that. Idu is already defining that it is a thing, and you are pointing to this thing instead of that thing. If you want to use this, that in the form of, then you want to add something afterwards, then it would be known as inda and anda. Inda and மற்றும் அந்த. இந்த மற்றும் அந்த. So there's a great distinction here between this, that, and this thing and that thing. And the two are used separately in separate spheres. Now, if you're already specifying this, as in it is already a thing and you don't want to exactly say what it is, then you would use idu and other. Idu மற்றும் அது. Idu and other. And if you want to use this something, for instance, book, nool, let's use the word நூல். So then you would say இந்த நூல் and மற்றும் அந்த நூல்.
இந்த நூல் மற்றும் அந்த நூல்.
இந்த நூல் மற்றும் அந்த நூல். I hope the distinction is clear. For the sake of it, let's do some sentences with this. So, if I want to say this is here, I would say இது இங்க இருக்கிறது.
இது இங்க இருக்கிறது.
இது இங்க இருக்கிறது. But if I want to specify something like a book, then I would say இந்த நூல் இங்க இருக்கிறது. Different from இது. இந்த நூல் இங்க இருக்கிறது.
இந்த நூல் இங்கே இருக்கிறது.
இந்த நூல் இங்க இருக்கிறது. The same would go for something else that is there, that is there, அது அங்க இருக்கிறது.
அது அங்க இருக்கிறது.
அது அங்க இருக்கிறது. But if I want to say that plant is there, the word for plant is செடி.
செடி.
செடி. So if I want to say that plant is there, then I would say அந்த செடி அங்க இருக்கிறது.
அந்த செடி அங்கே இருக்கிறது.
அந்த செடி அங்க இருக்கிறது. Again, if I had wanted to not specify that I'm talking about the plant, but it's clear, then I would say அது அங்க இருக்கிறது and not அந்த செடி அங்க இருக்கிறது. Now this rule of E and A, the how E and A comes, you will find it in every place in Tamil, because every noun can be turned into this and that by adding a E at the beginning of the word or an A at the beginning of the word, and then that specifically shows whether it's something that is close to you or it is something far to you. And this can be in a time spans also closer to you and time spans also further away from you. For instance, to say now, it would be இப்பொழுது.
இப்பொழுது.
இப்பொழுது. But to say something then, which is later, or then that happened before, then it would be அப்பொழுது.
அப்பொழுது.
அப்பொழுது. So using that in a sentence, now I am here. இப்பொழுது நான் இங்க இருக்கிறேன். Be careful that இப்பொழுது. பொழுது is a time frame of some sort. It in Tamil, in every language has this actually. They have certain time frames, and பொழுது is a certain time frame. Now, இப்பொழுது is this time frame, which is basically translated as now. இப்பொழுது, and அப்பொழுது is that time frame that we are talking about. It can be any random time frame. So, இப்பொழுது, and here it's the same r as Tamil or மழை, where the tongue touches the top of your mouth at the palate. So again, இப்பொழுது நான் இங்க இருக்கிறேன். Now I am here. இப்பொழுது நான் இங்க இருக்கிறேன்.
இப்பொழுது நான் இங்கே இருக்கிறேன்.
Great. இப்பொழுது நான் இங்க இருக்கிறேன்.
Then I am there. அப்பொழுது நான் அங்க இருக்கிறேன்.
அப்பொழுது நான் அங்கே இருக்கிறேன்.
அப்பொழுது நான் அங்க இருக்கிறேன். As I had explained earlier, this E and R can be added to any word to give the distinction of something that's that particular noun that is close to you and the particular noun that is not close to you of some sort. So, for instance, as we have learned previously, the word for bus is perundu.
பேருந்து.
Perundu. So if I want to say this bus as opposed to that bus, I would say ipperundu.
இப்பேருந்து.
Ipperundu. And if I want to say that bus, then I would say apperundu.
அப்பேருந்து.
Apperundu. It is important here to note that when I add an E or an R, the consonant that comes after must be doubled. Perundu becomes perundu, which with a double. So there's a stress on that. So in even when you say it, you must say it with the same stress. So I don't say I perundu, I would say ipperundu, and I would say apperundu. So not I perundu, ipperundu.
இப்பேருந்து.
And that bus, apperundu, not aperundu, apperundu.
அப்பேருந்து.
Let's take also the word knife, katti.
கத்தி.
Katti. Now if I want to say this knife, I would say ikatti. Note again that it will not be ikatti, but ikkatti. There's a stress on the K that was not there when katti was just katti. But when the minute you add the E or an R to make it specified to this katti or that katti, then you would add ikkatti.
இக்கத்தி.
Ikkatti. And to say that knife, akkatti. Not akatti, akkatti.
அக்கத்தி.
Akkatti. This is not different from when I use inda and anda. I can also say, for instance, inda katti, anda katti, or inda perundu, anda perundu would specifically show that it is exactly the same as ikkatti and akkatti. Now, the only difference is that inda katti and anda katti, or this knife, that knife, inda katti, in the perundu, anda perundu, this bus, that bus, is usually used not so much in comparison to each other necessarily only, it can also be just used in a sentence. But ikkatti and akkatti is necessarily used in comparison when you compare two objects. When someone asks you, are you going to use this knife, or is this knife sharp? And then you can say ikkatti, is sharp or whatever. I'm going to use ikkatti. So that's the distinction where it's a very small distinction. They are not actually very different from each other. Indakatti and andakatti is very much used as well. Now I would like to add one small complication here. If the word begins with a vowel instead of a consonant, then how do you facilitate this? Let's take the word village or homeland, which is ur.
Ur.
Ur. With E and A, we would add the letter V between the vowels. So in this case, U is the vowel and E and A are both vowels. To facilitate the joining of these two, we would add a V and then make that double. So we wouldn't say I ur, but we would say ivur. This village, ivur.
Evor.
Ivur. Same thing for that village. We wouldn't say a ur, we would say avur.
Avur.
Avur. It's good to note that with E and A, the facilitation is always through a V. Now, of course, alternatively, you can just say இந்த ஊரு
மற்றும் அந்த ஊரு.
இந்த ஊரு மற்றும் அந்த ஊரு.
இந்த ஊரு மற்றும் அந்த ஊரு. Let's take the other noun that we know that ends with a vowel. Aadu, goat. Aadu.
Aad.
Aadu. So, if you want to say, you want to make the comparison of this goat and that goat, you would say ivvaadu. Not ivaadu, ivvaadu.
Ivad.
Ivvaadu. And for that goat, you would say not avadu, avvaadu.
Avad.
Avvaadu. Similar to the other one, you can always say inda aadu and anda aadu. Inda aadu மற்றும் anda aadu.
இந்த ஆடு மற்றும் அந்த ஆடு.
இந்த ஆடு மற்றும் அந்த ஆடு.
Now, just the way we said இந்த நூல் and அந்த நூல் for this book and that book, இந்த நூல் மற்றும் அந்த நூல், we can also say இந்நூல் மற்றும் அந்நூல். Right, which is again this book, that book, except E and A are used and the nool's N, the beginning N, becomes double. Innool மற்றும் அந்நூல்.
இந்நூல் மற்றும் அந்நூல்.
இந்நூல் மற்றும் அந்நூல்.